So I'm Adam Mayer from Qlik in product marketing. And we're going to walk through the next half an hour and show you how you can do that. So first of all, what I want to do is just take a little step back and we'll walk through the evolving world of data architectures. And there's been a lot of change, particularly over the last 20 odd years. I'm going to walk through a high level reference architecture to help you put all of those pieces together. And then I also want to talk to you about an emerging concept called data fabric. Certainly how that's helping us drive our own data integration roadmap from an integration perspective, as well as the value that we can bring to you along your journey. So let's have a look at the evolving world of architectures. So really, it all started way back in the late 80s. So while I was busy falling off my BMX bike, there were many people out there building out careers as enterprise data warehouse ETL coders, using Informatica ETL and things like that in environments like Teradata and Netezza. And then things pretty much stayed the same for almost 2 decades. And then we saw the emergence of big data, still talking about it now, and the promise of data lakes to be able to bring all your data in. And that was really driven by technologies like Hadoop and MapReduce, and driven by vendors like Hortonworks and Cloudera, who now own Hortonworks. And there's still a lot of evolution happening with lakes. And then more or less 5 years later, we really saw the advent of streaming data. And this was brought on by the technology of Kafka, and Confluent really are as one of the vendors at level set of streaming data. And it's good to see them here today, talking about how they can help you keep your data in motion. And then really it all kicked off not long after that with the rise of the cloud native data warehouse. Really sort of started with Amazon Redshift, Snowflake really leading the pack and plowing through. And of course, Azure have Synapse, Google have BigQuery, and there's others out there. And that's really gaining a lot of pace. And then more recently, last couple of years, we heard the advent of the phrase, the data lakehouse, coined by Databricks. They're here talking today about it as well. And if we put a pin in where we are today, the big hype is all around data mesh. And that's really being spearheaded by Zhamak Dehani. And it was great to hear her this morning talking around their concept and the atomic steps you can do to build that out. So what I want to do now is just go back, peel one layer of the onion, so to speak, and we'll talk about some of the pros and cons of each of these, or challenges and opportunities, shall we say. So with the enterprise data warehouse, this really was a big centralized deployment, gold standard in many large organizations. It's all around structured data, schema on write, and that kind of stuff. And it really commanded a large team of highly skilled ETL engineers that extract, transform, load to be able to develop those ETL processes. But one of the challenges with this is that those processes are highly complex and become quite brittle quite quickly, adapting to change. So, adding in a new data source, modifying the schema can take a really long time, sometimes even months. And that's really what spurned on the popularity of data lakes, the ability to bring all your data in, both structured and unstructured. And one of the really interesting things about lakes is it brought this kind of paradigm shift from that traditional ETL approach, extract, transform, load, to one more ELT. So you could do the extracting and loading into the lake, and then you do your transformations kind of after the fact. And we're seeing a lot of organizations really using lakes as their large kind of landing and staging areas. And really one of the challenges with data lakes is how do you stop it becoming a data swamp? When we talk about streaming, this really kicked off with with Kafka, as I mentioned. Before that, these event-driven architectures were really driven by messaging systems like IBM and Q and those kind of things. But Kafka kind of gives a notion of being able to publish from your data sets into topics and then creating streams into various sync targets from there. And it also gives the promise of bringing in structured and unstructured information. And really, from our perspective, the opportunity is a data integration vendor and best-in-class change data capture technology. This is a really good fit to answer that question: how do I convert my data sources into streams? Change data capture looks for changes as they occur in source systems, and we can automatically pick them up and deliver them into Kafka as streams, really sort of taking the heavy lifting out for you. So streaming technology is really interesting, definitely for those real-time cases, IoT and things like that. So certainly one to keep an eye on. Cloud native data warehouses are really where all the buzz is. It really kind of grew a lot of pace when Snowflake separated out storage and compute, and also cloud brings that agility, elasticity that organizations are looking for as well. So it makes for a very different environment to your traditional data warehouse. And the ELT paradigm continues here, where you can extract and load the data into your cloud warehouse, but you can also do the transformations and push that down into your chosen target. Now you can write the code for that. One thing that's really gained popularity is the idea behind data warehouse automation. That's something that we do as well, and you can benefit from. And the idea behind it is it's a very model-driven approach to managing your life cycle of the data warehouse. And from the model, we can take the transformations and essentially write those hundreds and thousands of lines of code for you and allow you to push that down. So it really does bring a lot of efficiencies, with a lot of customers really gaining advantage for that. And we're also seeing the world of the cloud data warehouse evolve into more data platforms, starting to bring in structured and unstructured data, and really starting encompassing what lakes can do. So then that brings us to the data lakehouse. Again, I said this was coined by Databricks. Interesting concept around here is it's trying to bring the best of worlds of what data warehouses can do and data lakes and bring them together. Databricks have a product called Delta Lakes, which they're building this around. The idea behind that, as the name applies, is it does focus on the changes, the deltas that happen in your source data. And it sits on top of your existing data lake. It's ACID compliant, so that helps with conformity and standards and things like that. And it is also bringing in batch and streaming data as well. So really encompassing the best of all of those worlds. And it really, it's an emerging factor, but it's an interesting one to watch and definitely keep an eye on. And then we have data mesh, that hot topic. And what's interesting here is that up until now, all of these kind of architectures that I've mentioned have been centralized, whereas mesh is really all about being decentralized, and the idea behind it is it's domain-centric driven. So you have your data sets turned into data products, as they call it, and then you have different owners and levels of governance for each of those domains. It is an emerging concept. I won't go into great detail. One of the challenges around here, apart from not many implementations at the moment, but is keeping that consistency across those domains, particularly as you're trying to access, or if you want to access data across all of them. But certainly one to watch, and that is a big hot topic at the moment. So there's been a lot of change around all of these different architectures, and it's challenges in terms of how do you keep up with these new technologies as they come along and new approaches. So one of the most difficult roles has got to be the architecture, I think, in most organizations, in terms of how they pick up these changes, adopt them, and create value out of it. So really, as this line says, this phrase is true, change really is the only constant. If the last 2 years has taught of anything, it's certainly last week, change really is our only constant. And with that in mind, let's talk about one more new thing that's changing, and that's the role of the data fabrics. Really interesting from our perspective. Really think this will hold a lot of value in terms of helping you design and build out the agility you're looking for, whichever architecture route you go. Concept itself is around 7 years old, but it's really started to gain a lot of understanding and acceptance, with the likes of Gartner and Forrester talking about its importance. And I picked this quote here from Gartner because as it actually says, I'll paraphrase it, but data fabrics really are emerging as that increasingly popular design choice to simplify your data integration infrastructure. It can create that scalable architecture you're looking for, it reduces the technical debt, and it really helps to solve that rise in integration challenge. And we really see fabrics as a good fit here, and it's certainly something we're taking on board in terms of the direction we're going with data integration. So let's have a look at that kind of integration level. We really see Fabric as a set of design principles. So I'll just walk you through some of the principles, the key foundational principles that most people tend to agree on. So the first one is that a data integration fabric can actually span all of those current technologies that we talked about, the existing ones, as well as emerging ones in the future. So you can build these on top of a fabric. You can build data mesh on top of a fabric. The next sort of key foundational principle, if you like, is metadata. The ability to have, really rich metadata layer that you can tap into. Everything can be driven from metadata. And it's important to have a kind of lineage perspective as well across your pipeline. Many of you will probably know that data pipelines, it's not just about supporting a single vendor here. Pipelines tend to span multiple vendors, multiple technologies, because you're often dealing with multiple sources, and most times delivering out to more than one target. So having that kind of understanding and the interchange is absolutely critical at the metadata layer. And the next one is having those variety of access controls. So whether that could be like direct access into those sources, whether it's data virtualization or data movement. But the real key thing here is the ability to do that in real time, and whatever real time means for you. So it's that ability to stop working on out-of-date, stale data, maybe monthly refreshes, get it down to at least, some people think daily is good enough for them. It could be hourly, it could be micro sessions. But if you can get access to the data as and when it changes, and then deliver that out to the business, that's when you become more data informed, more data driven, and get actionable insights. And then how do you put all of that together? You need to have kind of that orchestration across the end-to-end pipeline to put all of those disparate pieces together, and certainly have visibility across the pipeline as well, and do as much as you can with automation. So I touched on data warehouse automation. That's going to be a really important part of the fabric, and you could say all automation is critical. And then that ties in quite nicely with one of the last layers there, and that's augmentation. So you could have a rule of thumb that says that which can't be automated should be augmented. And particularly if you're familiar with Qlik from the analytics side of what we can offer, we've been talking about augmented analytics for a little while now. And that's really about using technology like AI and machine learning to not only help make the product become smarter, but to help humans achieve tasks better, quicker. So these set of design principles here are quite foundational to a fabric, and they're certainly helping us drive the direction we're going in with our integration roadmap. So to give you an idea in terms of where Qlik fits in, what we're doing is we're helping our customers take their most valuable data from all of their data sources, so not just relational databases, could be traditional data warehouses and lakes, and also those mission critical systems like SAP, mainframe, Oracle farms, that kind of stuff. And the data integration kind of acts as delivering data as a service. So whether you want to create streaming data, streams of data out of those sources, whether you want to automate your data warehouse, automate the creation and management of your data lake, we can take that data, deliver it as a service to where you want it to be. Could be on-premise. More often than not now, everyone's having a cloud strategy. So we have really tight working relationships with the top three hyperscalers, Azure, AWS, and Google Cloud. And we can help you not only land that data into those hyperscaler environments, but deliver it in the format it needs to be so you can take advantage of the services that they offer within them. We also have the same technical and commercial relationships with the tech stack vendors as well. So whether you want to turn your data into streams of data using Apache Kafka, in that management layer using vendors like Confluent, we can help you with that. Whether you want to build your data lakehouse with Databricks, we can help you with that as well. Or whether you want to build out your data warehouse and extend on Snowflake's data platform. And then from there, that's when you can apply your analytics, start drawing out the insights of your data. Now you've unlocked it and freed it. And you can use any BI tool of choice to do that. It doesn't have to be Qlik. But we do firmly believe if you do add Qlik on there as the analytics layer as well, that's when you really take advantage of that full real-time analytic end-to-end data pipeline and drive better insights much faster. So I promise you a reference architecture. Let's lightly go through one in terms of how do you deploy this and put all of those pieces together. So as we mentioned, everything really starts with some sort of analytical use case, some question you're trying to answer, and you could use Qlik for that. but there are plenty of other tools out there, and we realize organizations tend to have a little bit of everything. More often than not, there's a data science project or initiative in there as well. Maybe you're doing app modernization. Whatever you're doing, you need to tap into your data source to get the insights out of that data. So you could use those tools directly to tap into that, and that works in some cases. But when you're looking at high volume scale, particularly when you're dealing with production systems or those mission critical systems, you don't want to tap into them too heavily. So more often than not, you've got a cloud management strategy in play, and that's where you want to start delivering the data to. So the first step is bringing in a catalog layer, the ability to understand the lineage and get that metadata. And by the way, everything that's in this kind of dark blue color here, this is what Qlik, and we have a solution to provide to help you along here. So cataloging is an important step to understand the dependencies in your data set, how they all work, the operational readiness, and this kind of stuff. It can also be an important interim step once you've moved the data as well, but it helps you understand what data you want to sort of latch onto and focus in. And you need to move that data from that source into your chosen target. So we can help you with the data movement side of things as well. So I mentioned that we are a change data capture provider, so we deliver that kind of best-in-class real-time change data capture piece. It's agentless, it's log-based, and it's minimal disruption or impact to your source systems. But for those source systems that you don't have transaction logs or can't make CDC ready, or you just don't have a real-time use case, we also support that incremental refresh or batch base loading as well. And incidentally, we have quite a few customers that are using this to implement kind of batch reduce or micro batch methodologies as well. So we can help you move that data without impact in those sources, and we can help you do light transformations in flight in the data movement as well. So that could be standardizing the data, it could be adding an extra column for timestamp, for example. And then from there, you want to do some form of extra transformations, more complex transformations. So it could be customized transformations for user-defined, fit for purpose. Could be you wanted to build out, automate your data lakehouse, data lakes, data warehouse with that automation. So we've got that model-driven approach, generates that code for you, and then in this case, it allows you to push down that SQL code into the target. And then from there, you can then, we can give you live views on the kind of operational pipeline, so you can start interacting with it before you need to do any updates or merges. But ultimately, it's about helping you form that data into analytics-ready data, so it can then be consumed further upstream. So you may want to do some additional data prep. All data is valuable, so we have the ability to offer governance self-service to allow you to take, as well as the data in that kind of managed operational pipeline, take maybe some local data that isn't managed, combine that in there, and carry on doing some sort of more fit for purpose preparation, and then push it through to analytics. Another important piece is maybe you want to enrich the data further. So various machine learning capabilities, you may want to plug into existing systems like R, Python, Data Robot, to name a few. We also have kind of built-in machine learning capabilities with a product called AutoML, which really kind of, it's a low-code approach, and it really widens the audience to not just limiting it to a small team of data scientists. It really helps to kind of release that budding data scientist in you, and you can enrich data by adding things like predictive analytics is quite key, maybe customer scoring, whatever it may be. And then you can push that down into your target. So we do have another product to help do that and automate workflows and conform to policies called App Automation, and that can help do that. And another interesting use case that our customers tend to use is reverse ETL. So say you've enriched the data with customer scoring, and that's now living in your data warehouse. You may have a use case to push that back into the source system. So let's say it's Salesforce, for example. Reverse ETL allows you to do that, and you kind of create this 360 loop. And then underpinned by all of that are a set of foundational services that work across all of this. So from monitoring to governance, we have open APIs approach as well, so you can do integration and interoperability. You can deploy that on-premise. You can take advantage of our software as a service solutions as well, or have a combination of the two and really start to open up any hybrid cloud or multi-cloud strategies you may have. And then on the analytics side, there's a whole host of functional services as well. So if you're familiar with Qlik for analytics, most people know and love us for the thing that really makes us stand out from the crowd is the ability to around the associative engine. So not only can you visualize the data, you can interact with the data, make a selection on something, and then everything that's associated with that selection will show. And just as importantly, we don't lose any data, it will also show you what isn't associated, and that can spark off some more interesting insights. We can literally start drawing those insights out for you and maybe draw out insights you didn't think to ask of with various AI type technology that we put in there, as well as the AutoML technology. Those are just a few that I've highlighted there, but this reference architecture kind of gives you a whole idea in terms of how you can deploy and put those pieces together, and you can use all of it or some of it depending where you are on your journey. And then just to round this out, I wanted to take and pick apart Forrester's kind of key 5 uses of why use the fabric and the value that Qlik can bring to that. So we'll go for each of these individually at fairly rapid pace. But the first one is real time, and that's not just about delivering the data in real time, and again, it's whatever real time can mean to you, but also it's delivering analytics as quickly as possible. So at the speed of transactions here. So I talked about that real time change data capture piece that we have. That's log-based, agentless. It supports many different data movement topologies, including a popular one-to-many distribution, but essentially it's about helping you automate and augment your analytics data pipeline. Now you may be familiar, if you can see it, with the little kind of graphic below, but this is our vision in terms of how we can help you augment and automate your pipeline. So from getting it from source data to pushing it into data warehouse or data lake, and then doing the transformations to make that analytic ready, and then deliver that as kind of visualizations and insights as quickly as possible. The idea behind that is we want to, as soon as things change at source, we want that to flow through the operational dashboard as quickly as possible, straight to the fingertips of the business user. And then we can go beyond the dashboard, generate those insights, ask questions from it, and even start to automate some of the actions as well. So this really is our vision around how you can achieve the state of working in active intelligence, and it fits quite nicely in what a data fabric is trying to achieve. Data fabrics need to be dynamic, and the way we do that is we can help you deliver new data, new insights, taking a very much a low-code, no-code approach. So there's still a place for coders, absolutely, but it's also about opening up to a much wider audience and making it more accessible to the masses. So we can help automate, add in new data sources so they don't have to take as long as traditional ways do. So that can be including automating the mapping, the instantation, all without coding, and we can help you build pipelines simply through drag and drop style interfaces. So get going really quickly. All of that new data is automatically registered in our catalog layer, so that can help you check for things like quality and various scorings. It can also help with adhering to any government's policies or regulations around data privacy that you may need to adhere to, and that can help mask data to conform to those with various rule-based and custom rules that you can use. I talked about taking that model-driven approach to creating a warehouse or lake from scratch, and it's exactly the same process when you do have new data sources to add in. So that we can help generate the SQL code. You just add it into the model, the transformations that are required, that code gets automatically generated again and pushed down. So it's very easy to create new kind of data warehouses, data marts on the top of that. And then they can then be consumed in, if you're using Qlik Analytics, consumed into the dashboard really quickly and start driving insights. So we've got features like natural language processing, so you can literally start asking questions of your data and get answers back really quickly. It doesn't have to be in the dashboard. You can go beyond that. We can integrate into things like Teams and Slacks. So you can start having a conversation like you would do with a colleague, and it it would generate the insights for you. If it exists, it will pull out something that already exists and you can go there. If it doesn't exist, it will automatically generate for it. And that's the piece where we can also generate insights that may live in your data that you might not have thought to ask for. So really bringing that out, if you're finding that proverbial needle in the haystack, we're literally taking that out and placing it into the palm of your hand. So not only we can help you drive to kind of informed action, actionable insights, we can actually automate it as well with app automation. So with those orchestrated workflows. And then all of this has to be done in an agile way. Businesses, your organizations like yourself are looking for how to do things more quickly. So that's how you can adapt to those changing business requirements, new technologies that come in as well. So Qlik is one of those only vendors that can really supply that cohesive end-to-end pipeline if you take data integration and the analytics side. We take a very open and agnostic approach, so we can help you support any source, any target that you want to deliver to, practically any technology, and you can use any BI tool if you wish. And that's backed up by that strong technical and commercial partnerships with those infrastructure vendors we spoke about, the hyperscalers, the technology stack vendors. And I just wanted to call out the little feature we got called Collaborative Notes. This is quite interesting. One of the things we try to do is bring the roles of IT and the business together. It plays very nicely in the role of data ops. And you can actually start collaborating inside apps. So like the business user, data engineer could work together. Business user can start to explain exactly what you're trying to achieve and why, and that allows the data engineer to make sure that they're getting the right data for you to achieve the right outcomes. So a good way of collaborating. And then the self-service piece, now that's been in Qlik's DNA for since we were founded, and we can empower both the business users and the data engineering teams at this stage. So from a business user, there's a whole host of capabilities around augmented analytics and natural language search, as we talked about. That Qlik Auto ML, that was from Big Squid. That is really great in terms of it can help data scientists. It's certainly not looking to replace data scientists, but again, it's that kind of low-code approach, and it really plays well to the self-service piece where you can bring in and start really becoming a citizen data science on some of the projects you need to do. So we have associative experience at the visualization layer. We also sort of offer it at a data prep layer, that self-service piece I talked about in terms of preparing data and managing it further. And also from if the user has access to the data warehouse automation solution, if they need to create new data marks, they can do themselves. And we do that in governed ways, but it's a wizard-driven process, so it's very easy. Series of a couple of clicks and a new data mark can be created and you can start doing analytics on it. And then I mentioned that application automation piece. It's a bit like a professional if then that, if you're familiar with that, but it's very, it opens up a lot of exciting possibilities in terms of how you can automate workflows, either based off of data that you're looking at. You may have some certain thresholds that you want to trigger action. You may just need to automate between workflows. Maybe you need something will trigger, needs to trigger a ticket in ServiceNow, so you could go from Workday to ServiceNow as well. So things like that, there's some really interesting use cases. And then from a data engineering perspective, it's pretty much automation at every single step. So from data ingestion, from creating the warehouse and the lakehouse, all the way through to cataloging the data and making that available to the rest of the business. And then all of this is only good if it can be trusted. And we help to build confidence through that kind of rich catalog and lineage capabilities. So I mentioned with a catalog, it can give you, as you bring data in, it will give you scores around the data quality. Does it need more work? Or is it good enough to go? And once you have deployed it, you can start seeing how popular it is, how well used it is. So really giving you a better idea in terms of how operational ready it is. And we also have kind of automation through a governance layer as well. So not only at the data quality side in terms of masking sensitive data, conforming to any kind of governance policies that you may have, that also happens at an access layer as well to cater for different kind of needs, from a data steward who needs to do a lot more complex stuff with the data, all the way through to data consumers who just need to access and consume it. And then a recent thing that you can take advantage of is field level lineage, which is quite powerful. And we're also bringing in third-party connectors. So we're going down at field level, so you can start seeing the lineage across the data that you're bringing in. And the other interesting thing about the third-party connectors is we can bring in metadata from the things like Tableau, Power BI, Elation, Qlik, other kind of catalogs as well. So you can really start to see that full lineage. We're not talking about our catalog being the one catalog to replace them all, but it's that interoperability that's really important, because again, organizations have a little bit of everything. So once both users and at a kind of data engineering level can understand that full data, where it's come from, how it's being used, that can really help to build out trust across the organization. And then just to wrap it up here, then hopefully sort of whiz through it, but hopefully you can see lots of different areas where potentially we can help you build up that data fabric at an integration layer all the way through to analytics. So this is really our vision in terms of how we're automating that analytical data pipeline, bringing in the sources that you need to get access to and unlock the data from, all the way through to where you need to deliver it. And that's how we're helping you to deliver, transform, and unify across that whole pipeline. So that's how it can help you kind of keep up with the changes that happen in those architectures, technologies, and approaches. And it will help you be in a better state to actually take advantage of it as well. So one example that I like to talk about is we have a long-standing customer who made a lot of investments in the sort of data lakes well before managed data warehouses came out. When Snowflake came along, they wanted to switch their strategy to that. And all the work that they'd done in terms of integrating into the sources, because they'd done it with Qlik, literally all they had to do was just drag and drop Snowflake as a new target, and they built a new pipeline. They were taking advantage of data warehouse automation as well, so they could automate and get up to 80% of the way there through automation in getting value and delivering data into Snowflake, literally just like that at a click of a button. So hopefully there's a little bit of food for thought there. I hope that was useful. I can take questions here, but I think we're near the end. But we've got to stand. Come along. We always love continuing the conversation about how we can help you become even greater than you already are. So thank you very much.